Hey, what's up guys? As I'm Mark Yoon and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I got for you today is actually leading up to Soul Calibur 7, all the speculation videos that we've been making obviously are speculation. There are going to be hints of truth and leaks and stuff like that as we get further along, and I will be separately laying those out for you and letting you know exactly what they are ahead of time so there's no confusion or misinformation. But today what I wanted to talk about is the gameplay. So there is a lot of people, including myself, who love the Soul Calibur for the gameplay, right? The 8-way run, the defensive maneuvers and tactics, like there's a lot of things that it just does right? A lot of people say that Soul Calibur 2 is like the pinnacle of the combat system from what it comes down to. While I don't necessarily disagree, I do like the faster pace and I do like critical edges and soul charge and stuff like that. However, I do hate reversal edge. So there's a couple things that we need to do to address, and hopefully Bandai Namco gets a hold of this and makes some kind of adjustments. If we can check out the comment section down below what you specifically want. But the things that I want to talk about is movement, defense, and offense, okay? So the first part of this video, we're going to talk about movement, how we can adjust that. So the 8-way run is pretty good, right? It's like one of the best variations on movement that you can have in a game. I do believe that it allows you to be almost the most fluid without being a complete 3D arena fighter. And it still gives you that like fighting game feel. And like most of the match, you're going at it like 2D anyway. The 3D movement around the map, or the 8-way run, is usually used to dodge or traverse around like certain attacks that aren't like area effect attacks and stuff like Nightmare's Blast. But there are other holes that we have in this. So some of the defensive options that we don't see in here are like recoveries or like return to neutrals. And for anyone who's not like a huge fighting game aficionado, returning to neutral will just be like their basic standard stance that they start in. It's a way to get into a position to start a combo as opposed to being on the defensive or offensive, so it's neutral. So what I want to talk about first for this that I want to add is I want to add soul dashing. Now, this would work similar to how it worked in Naruto Storm series, where you would actually use some meter and you'd be able to like recover or emergency like escape yourself. So if somebody starts reversal edge, let's see, hopefully it's not in 7, but if somebody starts something like that, you can use some energy or some chakra, some soul, and using your meter you can dash back out of the way for like a quick like double dash or something like that. This will just put you out of harm's reach, and it does cost meters, so it can't be like over spammed. I want this to be multi-directional though, so similar to how the 8-way run works, I want it to be used in all those directions. So I want it to be able to dodge left, to dodge right, and so on and so forth. I think this will also help to set up combo strings if we're going to do dash forwards towards the enemy. So if an enemy is a neutral standpoint, you do your dash forward, you go right into them, it sets up for a nice combo. There are going to be defensive options because that person can dash back or dash right to left, and they can also use perfect guard, guard impact. There's plenty of defensive maneuvers that are already capabilities that are within Soul Calibur's engine that will lend well to this, that will not help it to be overpowering. But I do think that this is something that would add a lot more spice to the gameplay, make the matches more fluid and seem a lot better, and not have people just constantly guarding. It's a lot more fluid to set up a combo string than it would be to actually, evade. So I think that would be a perfect option, but instead of perfect guards in addition to this, I'd also like to use meter burn for another thing, and that's perfect evade. Okay, so we have perfect guard and guard impact, right? So if you time it right, you can guard impact and knock the opponent, like stagger them so that you can set yourself up for a combo, or a perfect guard, you can just block it with no chip damage and take like nothing. A perfect evade would work similar to this, but it would probably use like another additional button combo. So when you're doing the perfect guard, instead of pressing guard at the exact same time, you would use the meter button and press guard, and this would lead to an evasion. So instead of like using like a completely canceled, you would just like either sidestep, or you would like roll behind a setup just like something that would be a perfect evasion. Now this would take more meter than a meter dash, or than a soul dash, obviously, because you can't have people just constantly spamming this. The Storm series has this to where you have a certain number of evasions, or they have their logs in their game, so you can use them, and then like you're at a huge disadvantage if you use them out, because then the enemy can just like go at you. I don't want it necessarily like that. I just want to implement it to where you can use a large chunk of meter if you're in a pinch to be able to evade something like that, like a critical finish, for example, or critical edge. That's about it for movement. The next thing that I want to talk about is adding something to the actual gameplay itself, and that is offense. So in offense, we have the world is our oyster when it comes to Soul Calibur with offensive maneuvers, but there are missing some key things that most other fighting games actually have. I don't like how when an enemy lands on the ground, they're just like on the ground, and while you can hit them on the ground, you're usually waiting for somebody to get up, which in my opinion breaks up the gameplay. I think they should initiate more of a ground bounce, or add more grounded attacks instead of just like the low kick and the low sweep, so that like when your opponent's on the ground and they're just kind of waiting out the timer, you can actually punish them. Now while you're on the ground, for a defensive maneuver, I do think you should be able to use the soul dash. So maybe do like a roll out of the way if somebody is trying to like punish you on the ground. That way, like, we're just playing the game, right? You're not like, nobody's like on only defensive and only offensive, you know? There's a lot of characters in the game that have zoning techniques, and I think everyone should have at least one projectile. This would just be for setups only, weak chip damage type stuff, but something that would maybe interrupt like a combo string, or get somebody to be a neutral position again. We see a lot of characters that have similar things like this. Like Amy's got her roses, Huang's got like talisman. There's like a lot of characters that have certain stuff like this, and it doesn't have to be like technically a projectile, as long as like it can close some distance no matter what the attack is. I think everyone should have something simple to that, because it's like a little ridiculous when like you're using a close range character like Maxi per se, and somebody can just like spam like Cervantes' gun, or like Taki's like kunai. Obviously these are easily to evade because they're slower than normal moves, and they're weaker, but it'd just be nice to have options, right? So what I want to see happen is, if you're having a projectile, we can have projectile clashes. Now, like not like the button mashing minigame kind of thing, but just like if someone throws a projectile and you throw a projectile at the same time, it causes neutral. Like it just like sends them off, and there's no damage equated to that. And I think that would be a good way to balance that out. Now, more on the offensive side, something that this game lacks also is wall juggling, or juggling in general. Now, what's juggling? Juggling is when you have an opponent in the air and you can continue a combo with an aerial attack or keep them in the air. There are ways of doing this with certain characters, but it's not like part of the game's mechanics to just naturally juggle all the time, especially with no floor bouncing or wall bouncing, stuff like that. But when we're using the actual juggle mechanic, this is literally just to set up, and I don't think people should be completely defensive in the air. If you want to use meter, then have meter for your same defensive options we talked about before. And lastly, I want to talk about straight up defense. So as we were talking about, a lot of the energy meter burn stuff should be used for more defensive maneuvers. I think that reversal edge, first of all, should get out of the game, and if they want to keep it in the game, it needs to cost an entire bar of meter. We can't just have people spamming reversal edge and then gaining meter from it to launch straight away into a critical edge, because I think it abuses the system, and I know a lot of people feel the same way as me. Some people don't, and higher level players can outmaneuver this easily, but for casuals, it's an entirely game interrupting, ruining experience. So a lot of these defensive maneuvers I think would lend to it, such as the chakra, or I keep saying chakra, the soul dash could be used to maneuver backwards or side to side, or even forward to initiate a combo. So would a wall juggle, so like an upward attack to launch your enemy into the air. A lot of these similar offensive maneuvers can be used defensively, and I hope they utilize some of this in the next game to actually just give us more capability when we're actually playing the actual game itself, because all the single player stuff there is great, as long as like we actually enjoy the core experience too. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to bring this video to a close, but I want to ask you, what do you guys want to see gameplay-wise changes in the comment section down below? I'm also going to put a poll on the community page, and you can join the Discord and chat about it there if you want. And as I always say, I love it, thank you,
and thank you.